Not really, because when I was there up until 2009, the political will was strong, not just in the part of NATO countries and the United States, but a very large number of partners of Afghanistan to ensure that never happened. And there was military effort, obviously, to counter, including the Obama-era surge, to counter Taliban pressure back then. But there's also a reconstruction effort and repeated exercises in democracy to make sure institutions were strong enough to withstand any challenge. The plan then was to hand over security to Afghan forces and to continue supporting them so that they could defend their own country while working on a broader peace plan for the region. That's the part that didn't happen. And unfortunately, over the past 10 years, the Taliban support in Pakistan has only grown stronger. They took advantage of failed talks to rebuild their military capacity, and they launched an invasion this year, which has succeeded in bringing them all the way to Kabul. So it's been a disaster, but it didn't have to happen. This isn't a revolution along those lines. I mean, those two revolutions have been held up by fear, intimidation, repression, and dictatorship. But look at the Taliban experience in 1996. It only lasted until 2001 because their main agenda item in Afghanistan was to actually weaken and even destroy Afghan institutions to make Afghanistan irrelevant as a nation state, and the economic record was abysmal, so that Afghanistan could become a platform for terrorist groups that then carried out global jihadist attacks. And that's what brought an end to the regime, because the 9/11 attacks were so atrocious that the whole world came back. I don't think this is over, even today, because they do not have legitimacy. They haven't been recognized by any state. There are Afghans who are continuing military resistance against the de facto Taliban presence in most of the country. And the world still has a lot of leverage that it hasn't used. For instance, an invasion of another country, in this case, Pakistan's intelligence service using the Taliban to regain influence across Afghanistan, is illegal under international law. And it has generated a strong response in other cases. When Vladimir Putin, whom you showed earlier, invaded Ukraine, there was a very strong response. That same sort of response should be coming now that a country has had the audacity to try to take over Afghanistan by force. It's unacceptable, and the world needs to get its act together to respond appropriately. You need to argue for it on humanitarian grounds, and we need to remind the world of its responsibility to the planet's most vulnerable. Over the past 2 weeks, I think we have seen the willingness to take larger numbers grow, not dramatically, but slowly. Canada has committed to take 20,000. I think we'll go well beyond that. The United States said tonight, I mean, President Biden said proudly they've taken already over 20,000 out of the country. And I think European countries and other partners are starting to do more. What we really need is for the neighbors of Afghanistan to open their borders. That's what they're required to do under international conventions governing the way asylum seekers and refugees ought to be treated. That's what they did in response to the Soviet invasion after 1979. They must do it again now. And Vladimir Putin is being completely disingenuous when he argues for closed borders. That's a violation of Russia's obligations as a P5 member. But even if millions of Afghans leave the country because of persecution, because they fear for their lives, that doesn't resolve the fate of 30+ million who will remain inside the country, almost 40 million. And here we have to deal with the fact that the Taliban have a track record. It was dramatically unsuccessful. They are listed terrorists under a UN consolidated list. They were funded to undertake this invasion this year by Pakistan. These issues need to be confronted. The strategy issues should be part of the strategy that was missing over the last 20 years. It needs to be a regional strategy for peace, one involving principally Afghanistan and Pakistan. We have to see an end to invasions, occupations, and terrorism in this region.
از حکومت میترسی او طالبان میترسی